Okay, so for the first unit, we're doing exploration and colonization. Today, we're going to focus on the European colonization of the Americas, 1492 to 1752. So, since Columbus, many Spanish explorers have sailed to America for a variety of reasons. They either wanted to spread Christianity, they wanted to gain wealth, or they wanted to gain fame. A lot of people call this the 3 Gs, or gold, God, and glory. And there's many tales of like what America holds, like you're going to walk and find all this gold. Or there's even one story where there's like this fountain of youth that if you find it, like you'll never grow old. And this brought a lot of people to America as well. And that's what the video I'm about to show is about. One fun fact is the first English child was born in the Americas. Her name is Virginia Dare. And I'm going to start my little video. I apologize if this is awful.
Hello, boys and girls, whatever. My name is Captain Jack Sparrow. I take it some of you have heard of me. As you may well know, you may have also heard whisperings and rumours that Jack Sparrow be recruiting a crew to undertake a voyage, Fountain of Youth. Not true, of course not. But even if it weren't not true, you wouldn't be interested in joining me, would you? Hey? Death lies before us as we sail to the Fountain of Youth. If I do not make it to the fountain, neither will you. Is that it? I think so. Did everyone see that? Because I will not be doing it again.
Okay, so that was the Fountain of Youth I had talked about. Juan Ponce de Leon was an early explorer of southern North America. He had heard tales of a spring with amazing power somewhere in the Caribbean, and anyone again who drank from these waters or this spring would become youthful again. De Leon sailed to what he thought was an island to search for the Fountain of Youth and gold. He searched for years, however, he never found it. However, in his search, he did explore Florida and claim it for the Spain. So, Ponce de Leon and other Spanish explorers built the Spanish Empire. John Cabot, aka Giovanni Cabot, first sailed for the English across the Atlantic in 1497, 5 years after Columbus. The English were very excited, but on his third trip, he never made it back. And the English monarchy did not like that, and they would not try again for another 70 years before they would agree to support another trip. It's not good. There we go. Okay. So again, to receive credit, all you really need to do is copy down the notes. You can do it on a piece of paper and upload a photo, or you can type it into a Google Doc. It's completely your choice. You're more than welcome to shorthand as long as you know what that shorthand means. So at the end of the 1500s, about 100 years after Columbus discovered America, the Spanish and the French were the only European powers directly involved in North America. The Spanish had built a series of forts along the Florida coast, mainly to protect their convoys carrying back gold to home, so like ships carrying gold. The French were navigating the St. Lawrence River, pursuing the fur trade, and then early in the 1600s, both countries wanted to colonize this area, and they named them New Mexico and New France, but they did not have enough people to colonize this area. So they relied on a policy of converting Native Americans in the area into their subjects. In many cases, you had a lot of interracial marriages or intermarriages between natives and the colonists in order to help populate the land. So first were the Spanish. They arrived in New Mexico in 1598 with rumors of gold just north of the Rio Grande River. When no gold was found, the Catholic Church convinced the Spanish to keep the mission up there in an attempt to help colonize the natives. The colony's economy was mainly based on farming and sheep raising, and it was not very prosperous. Spanish settlers were very lazy, and they often forced the Native Americans to work for them. Very few colonists came from Mexico, and the population growth was mostly from the children due to all those marriages between the Native Americans and the colonial men. So again, you just need to write down the 4 points. Spanish arrived in New Mexico. The capital is Santa Fe. The colonists are very lazy. And then that's the population size at the very bottom. Okay, New France. So in the early 1600s, the French came up with a strategy to monopolize the fur trade in the north. Samuel de Champlain founded modern-day Nova Scotia and Quebec. He created an alliance with the Native Americans in that area, who controlled the fur territories of the Great Lakes, and joined them in making a war on their traditional enemies, which was the 5 nations of the Iroquois Confederacy. He developed relations between the French and the natives by sending agents and traders to live among the native people, where they learned to speak their language, they learned their customs, and helped direct the flow of fur into Quebec. So, France encouraged a lot of families to settle along the colonies, like near Canada. So, what were some of the differences between the Spanish and the French colonization? Some of the differences were that they both, or some of the similarities were that they both encouraged intermarriage between themselves and the natives. And some of the differences were just how they treated those natives. So the French often worked with the natives for like commercial and money-making interests, while the Spanish more like organized or enslaved the Native American communities into working for them, like on mines or plantations or ranches. The Spanish missionaries were also very aggressive in their attempt to convert the natives to Catholicism, and they often forced them to abandon their own religion, while the French missionaries they wanted them to adopt certain qualities of Catholicism or like the Catholic religion into their own existing religion, but it wasn't forced. Okay, England and the Chesapeake. And again, there's my fun fact that the first English child born in the Americas was named Virginia Dare. I know you see the timeline up top. You don't have to write that down if you don't want to. It's up there for a while. So, Jamestown. Jamestown or the Virginia Company is the first joint stock company, and you receive a charter or permission from the king to start this colony. So a joint stock company allowed several investors to pool their wealth in support of a colony that would hopefully make a profit. So once they had obtained a charter or an official permit, a stock company accepted responsibility for running the colony, and they would receive most of the profits that the colony would make. A little sidebar, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of like the mystery of Roanoke. So England's first attempt to plant a colony in North America at what is now Roanoke Islands remains like a mystery. After one failed attempt in 1585, Sir Walter Raleigh, who is this man, if I can get his photo to come up. There he is. Ta-da. Okay, I'm going to go back. I lost his photo. He dispatched a second expedition in 1587. Its captain, John White, sailed back to England for supplies, and upon his return to Roanoke in 1590, White found the settlement had been abandoned and the colonists had vanished, and the word Croatan, which is a Native American tribe, was carved into a tree. So there's a whole bunch of like different ideas. So some historians believe that the colonists starved, or they were attacked and were killed off by the Native Americans, or that they actually joined and lived locally with the Native American tribes. So 16 years later, after this first attempt, the English tried it again. A group of businessmen planned to establish another colony, and to do so, they obtained a charter from the king. They founded a joint stock company. By today's standard, it'd be like a corporation or a company that is funded and run by a group of investors for the sole purpose of making money. And they called this settlement Jamestown after their king, King James. Almost immediately, the settlement nearly fails. There's a whole bunch of reasons. They're lazy, they're inexperienced. So most of the settlers came to get rich quick. Some were goldsmen who thought they could find gold and make jewelry and sell it quickly and then just go back home. Others were born rich but had never really done any manual labor, such as growing crops or building houses. And instead of building infrastructures to survive the winter or plant and store crops for the winter, they spent their entire time looking for gold. The area they also chose to settle in was very swampy, and it was like just there were so many diseases and like there were mosquitoes, and many of the settlers actually ended up dying from diseases like diphtheria or like malaria. There was also no real leadership, and the settlers bickered about like minor matters, even when they were in danger of starving. Okay, so the settlers ended up receiving help from the Powhatans, or a local Native American group, who gave them some food. But when the settlers began plundering food from the surrounding tribes, or plundering means taking, the Powhatans decided to starve the colonists out. He said to John Smith, here I'll put the little quote. He said to John Smith, the leader of the Jamestown, and this is from the Powhatan chief, that quote, who's saying this to him, that the English had come not for trade, but to invade my people and possess my country. So 2/3 of the colonists died after 7 months. That's about 67 of the original 100 that died within the first 7 months. And the colonists suffered from diseases, malnutrition, and frequent Indian attack. Smith pressured the Powhatans to provide corn for the colonists, and he threatened to banish any colonist who was unwilling to work. Unfortunately, Smith left the settlements months later due to an injury, and he was only there for 8 months. Meanwhile, back in England, they obviously still need a whole bunch of people to go over to like America at this point, because again, it's a money-making venture. So they're still promoting America as like this great place to live, or this great place to go, and that you're going to get there. And like just Virginia's going to be paradise. You're going to get there, you're going to have a house, all these riches, you can go from nothing to something. But in reality, they were all dying and starving off.